Question 1. Compliance review shows that the admissions committee for the Adventist University of Haiti entrance exam is evaluating an applicant whose academic record, while meeting minimum requirements, shows a significant downward trend in the most recent academic year. Which approach best addresses the potential risks associated with this applicant's profile? Option A. Immediately flag the applicant for potential rejection due to the recent academic decline, assuming it indicates a lack of sustained academic commitment. Option B. Conduct a thorough review of the applicant's academic history, seeking clarification on the recent performance decline through supplemental documentation or an interview, while also considering other aspects of their application such as extracurricular activities and personal statements. Option C. Focus solely on the applicant's performance in the entrance exam itself, disregarding the previous academic trend as less relevant to their immediate test-taking ability. Option D. Rely on the subjective judgment of the admissions officer based on their overall feeling about the applicant's potential, without a structured assessment of the academic trend. Correct answer is B. Conduct a thorough review of the applicant's academic history, seeking clarification on the recent performance decline through supplemental documentation or an interview, while also considering other aspects of their application such as extracurricular activities and personal statements. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires the applicant to demonstrate an understanding of risk assessment principles within the context of university admissions, specifically for the Adventist University of Haiti entrance exam. The challenge lies in identifying the most appropriate approach to evaluating potential risks associated with an applicant's profile, ensuring fairness, adherence to university policies, and the integrity of the admissions process. Careful judgment is required to balance the need for thorough evaluation with the efficient processing of applications. The correct approach involves a systematic and objective evaluation of identified risks, utilizing established criteria, and seeking further information when necessary. This aligns with best professional practice in admissions by ensuring that decisions are based on a comprehensive understanding of the applicant's potential to succeed and contribute to the university community. It upholds ethical principles of fairness and transparency by avoiding arbitrary judgments and focusing on demonstrable factors. Regulatory justification would stem from any internal university policies or guidelines that mandate a structured risk assessment process for admissions, ensuring that all applicants are evaluated against consistent standards. An incorrect approach that relies solely on initial impressions or anecdotal evidence fails to meet professional standards. This is ethically problematic as it introduces bias and subjectivity, potentially disadvantaging deserving candidates. It also lacks regulatory justification, as it bypasses any established procedures for risk assessment, undermining the integrity of the admissions process. Another incorrect approach, which involves immediate rejection without further investigation, demonstrates a lack of due diligence. This is professionally unsound because it may overlook mitigating factors or unique strengths an applicant possesses, leading to potentially unfair outcomes and a failure to identify promising students. It also fails to adhere to any implied or explicit university guidelines that require a thorough review of all applications. A professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve 1. Clearly defining the scope and objectives of the risk assessment. 2. Identifying potential risk factors relevant to academic success and university fit. 3. Developing objective criteria for evaluating these factors. 4. Establishing a process for gathering necessary information, including requesting additional documentation or interviews when risks are identified. And 5. Making a final decision based on a holistic review of all gathered information, ensuring consistency and fairness. Question 2. Regulatory review indicates that the Adventist University of Haiti's admissions committee is tasked with assessing the potential academic success of applicants. Considering the unique socio-economic and educational landscape of Haiti, which approach to risk assessment best aligns with the university's mission and ethical obligations? Option A. A risk assessment that primarily relies on the applicant's performance on a single, high-stakes standardized entrance examination, assuming this is the most objective measure of academic readiness. Option B. A comprehensive risk assessment that evaluates academic potential through a combination of standardized test scores, high school transcripts, essays, letters of recommendation, and interviews, with particular attention to demonstrated resilience and relevant life experiences. Option C, a risk assessment that focuses predominantly on an applicant's demonstrated financial need, assuming that providing access is the primary determinant of success. Option D, a risk assessment that prioritizes applicants who have completed secondary education in countries with more developed educational systems, believing this indicates a higher level of preparedness. The correct answer is B, a comprehensive risk assessment that evaluates academic potential through a combination of standardized test scores, high school transcripts, essays, letters of recommendation, and interviews, with particular attention to demonstrated resilience and relevant life experiences. Explanation: this scenario is professionally challenging because it requires the admissions committee to balance the university's commitment to academic excellence with its mission to serve the Haitian community, potentially including individuals with diverse educational backgrounds. The risk assessment process is crucial for ensuring that admitted students have the potential to succeed while also upholding the university's standards and mission. Careful judgment is required to avoid both admitting students who are unlikely to thrive and unfairly excluding deserving candidates. The correct approach involves a comprehensive risk assessment that considers a broad range of factors beyond traditional academic metrics. This approach is right because it aligns with the ethical imperative to provide educational opportunities equitably, while also fulfilling the university's responsibility to maintain academic rigor. By evaluating potential academic success through multiple lenses, including demonstrated resilience, relevant experience, and a clear understanding of the program's demands, the university can make more informed and fair admissions decisions. This holistic review is ethically sound, as it acknowledges that traditional academic scores may not fully capture an individual's potential, especially within the context of Haiti's unique educational landscape. An approach that solely relies on standardized test scores is incorrect because it fails to account for the diverse educational pathways and potential barriers that applicants from Haiti might face. This narrow focus can lead to the exclusion of highly capable individuals whose strengths lie in areas not measured by such tests, thereby failing to uphold the university's mission of serving the community. An approach that prioritizes applicants with extensive prior international academic experience over local applicants is incorrect because it can create an unfair bias and may not accurately reflect an applicant's suitability for the specific context of the Adventist University of Haiti. It overlooks the potential of local talent and may not align with the university's commitment to fostering Haitian leadership and development. An approach that focuses exclusively on an applicant's financial need without considering their academic preparedness is incorrect because, while financial accessibility is important, admitting students who are not academically equipped for the program can lead to higher dropout rates and ultimately fail to serve the student or the university effectively. A balanced assessment is necessary. Professionals in admissions should employ a decision-making framework that begins with clearly defining the university's mission and admission criteria. This involves understanding the specific context of the applicant pool. The next step is to develop a multifaceted assessment tool that evaluates academic potential, personal attributes, and alignment with the university's values. This tool should be applied consistently to all applicants. Finally, a review process involving diverse perspectives within the admissions committee is essential to ensure fairness and thoroughness in evaluating each candidate's risk profile and potential for success. Question 3. Consider a scenario where the Adventist University of Haiti needs to secure significant funding for a new academic program. The administration is exploring various avenues, including accepting a substantial donation from a multinational corporation known for its aggressive business practices in other regions, and launching a public crowdfunding campaign that relies on persuasive, though not explicitly false, testimonials from past students about their career successes, which approach best aligns with responsible risk management and ethical institutional conduct. Option A. Accept the donation from the multinational corporation immediately to secure the funds quickly and proceed with the crowdfunding campaign as planned, assuming the testimonials are generally positive. Option B. Decline the donation from the multinational corporation due to potential reputational risks and focus solely on the crowdfunding campaign, trusting that the positive testimonials will attract sufficient donations. Option C. Conduct a thorough due diligence investigation into the multinational corporation's ethical record and the implications of accepting their donation, while simultaneously developing clear guidelines and verification processes for the crowdfunding testimonials to ensure they are representative and not misleading. Option D. Prioritize the crowdfunding campaign as it involves a broader base of donors and is perceived as less risky than accepting a large corporate donation, and only conduct a superficial review of the corporation's background. The correct answer is C. Conduct a thorough due diligence investigation into the multinational corporation's ethical record and the implications of accepting their donation, while simultaneously developing clear guidelines and verification processes for the crowdfunding testimonials to ensure they are representative and not misleading. Explanation: this scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the immediate need for resources with the long-term sustainability and ethical implications of acquiring those resources. The university, like any institution, faces financial pressures, but the method of addressing these pressures must align with established ethical principles and any relevant Haitian regulations governing educational institutions or fundraising. The core of the challenge lies in discerning between legitimate fundraising and potentially exploitative or misleading practices. The correct approach involves a thorough and transparent risk assessment process. This means identifying potential risks associated with various fundraising methods, such as reputational damage, legal liabilities, or ethical compromises. It requires evaluating the likelihood and impact of these risks and developing mitigation strategies. For instance, if considering partnerships with corporations, a risk assessment would scrutinize the corporation's ethical standing and ensure alignment with the university's values to avoid association with controversial practices. This approach is ethically justified as it prioritizes due diligence, transparency, and the protection of the university's integrity and its stakeholders' trust. It aligns with the general ethical duty of care and responsible stewardship of institutional resources and reputation, which are implicit in the governance of any educational body. An incorrect approach would be to prioritize immediate financial gain without adequate consideration of the risks. For example, accepting a large donation from an entity with a questionable ethical record without due diligence could lead to significant reputational damage and public backlash, undermining the university's mission and its ability to attract future support. This fails to uphold the ethical principle of avoiding conflicts of interest and maintaining institutional integrity. Another incorrect approach would be to engage in fundraising activities that are misleading or deceptive to potential donors. This violates ethical principles of honesty and transparency and could also lead to legal repercussions under Haitian consumer protection or fraud laws, if applicable. Such actions erode trust and damage the long-term viability of the university's fundraising efforts. Professionals in similar situations should employ a structured decision-making process. This involves clearly defining the objective, e.g., securing funding, identifying all potential methods to achieve it, and then systematically evaluating each method against a framework of ethical principles, institutional values, and any applicable legal or regulatory requirements. A key step is conducting a comprehensive risk assessment for each viable option, considering both the potential benefits and the potential harms. This allows for informed decision-making, prioritizing options that offer the best balance of achieving objectives while minimizing ethical and reputational risks. Question 4. Strategic planning requires a proactive approach to identifying and mitigating potential challenges. Considering the Adventist University of Haiti's mission and operational context, which of the following best represents a robust risk assessment strategy for achieving enrollment targets while upholding institutional integrity? Option A. Significantly increase marketing and recruitment efforts across all channels to attract a larger pool of applicants, assuming higher numbers will naturally lead to meeting targets. Option B. Focus solely on financial projections and revenue targets, using enrollment numbers as a primary metric without evaluating the qualitative aspects of the applicant pool or potential long-term consequences. Option C. Conduct a comprehensive risk assessment to identify potential threats to enrollment targets and institutional reputation, analyze their likelihood and impact, and develop proactive mitigation plans. Option D. Prioritize meeting enrollment targets by relaxing admission criteria for a defined period, with the expectation that this will boost immediate revenue. The correct answer is C. Conduct a comprehensive risk assessment to identify potential threats to enrollment targets and institutional reputation, analyze their likelihood and impact, and develop proactive mitigation plans. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because the university, as an educational institution, has a responsibility to ensure its admissions process is fair, transparent, and aligned with its mission and values. The pressure to meet enrollment targets can create a conflict between financial sustainability and the integrity of the admissions process. Careful judgment is required to balance these competing interests without compromising ethical standards or regulatory compliance. The correct approach involves a comprehensive risk assessment that systematically identifies potential threats to the university's reputation, financial stability, and adherence to its mission. This assessment should consider various factors, including the likelihood and impact of each risk. By prioritizing risks based on their potential severity and developing mitigation strategies, the university can proactively address challenges. This aligns with principles of good governance and responsible institutional management, which are implicitly expected of any reputable educational body, including Adventist University of Haiti. Maintain public trust and operational integrity. While specific Haitian regulations for university admissions might not be publicly detailed in a way that can be cited here, the fundamental ethical and professional obligation to conduct operations with due diligence and foresight is universally applicable. An approach that focuses solely on increasing marketing efforts without a thorough understanding of the underlying risks is professionally unacceptable. This overlooks potential negative consequences such as attracting unqualified candidates, damaging the university's academic reputation, or facing scrutiny for potentially misleading recruitment practices. This failure to conduct a risk assessment means the university is operating reactively rather than proactively, leaving it vulnerable to unforeseen problems. Another incorrect approach is to prioritize short-term financial gains by lowering admission standards. This is ethically problematic as it compromises the quality of education and the value of the degrees awarded. It also risks violating any implicit or explicit accreditation standards that require maintaining academic rigor. Such a decision would undermine the university's long-term sustainability and its commitment to providing a quality educational experience. Finally, an approach that ignores potential reputational damage by focusing only on meeting enrollment numbers without considering the source or quality of applicants is also professionally flawed. This can lead to a decline in student success rates, increased dropout rates, and negative publicity, all of which can severely harm the university's standing within the community and among prospective students and their families. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured risk management framework. This begins with identifying potential risks, analyzing their likelihood and impact, evaluating their significance, and then developing appropriate responses. This process should be iterative and involve input from various stakeholders within the university. Transparency and adherence to ethical principles should guide every step, ensuring that decisions are made in the best interest of the students and the institution's long-term mission. Question 5. The investigation demonstrates that during the recent Adventist University of Haiti entrance examination, a proctor reported observing a pattern of unusual behavior among a small group of candidates, including discreet passing of notes. This observation raises concerns about potential academic dishonesty and its impact on the fairness of the admissions process. What is the most appropriate initial step for the university's admissions committee to take in response to this report? Option A. Overlook the report to ensure admission targets are met, assuming the observed behavior was isolated and insignificant. Option B. Initiate a formal, documented investigation into the reported irregularities, gathering evidence and assessing the impact on examination fairness before making any decisions. Option C. Focus solely on the proctor's adherence to procedural guidelines, without investigating the specific allegations of note passing. Option D. Immediately disqualify all candidates observed by the proctor, citing a breach of examination integrity. Correct answer is D. Immediately disqualify all candidates observed by the proctor, citing a breach of examination integrity. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the university's need for accurate admissions data with the ethical obligation to ensure the integrity of the entrance examination process. The pressure to admit a certain number of students, coupled with the discovery of potential irregularities, creates a conflict that demands careful judgment and adherence to established protocols. The university must act decisively to uphold its academic standards and the fairness of its admissions, while also respecting the rights of applicants. The correct approach involves a systematic and documented review of the examination process, focusing on identifying any deviations from established procedures and assessing their potential impact on the fairness and validity of the results. This approach is ethically sound and aligns with the principles of academic integrity and due process. It prioritizes a thorough investigation to gather objective evidence before making any decisions that could affect applicants. This aligns with the Adventist University of Haiti's commitment to ethical conduct and fair evaluation, as would be expected of any reputable educational institution. An approach that immediately disqualifies candidates based on suspicion without a thorough investigation is ethically flawed. It presumes guilt without evidence and violates the principle of due process, potentially penalizing innocent applicants. This fails to uphold the university's responsibility to conduct fair and impartial evaluations. Another incorrect approach would be to ignore the potential irregularities to meet admission targets. This is professionally unacceptable as it compromises the integrity of the admissions process and undermines the credibility of the university. It prioritizes expediency over ethical responsibility and academic standards. A third incorrect approach, focusing solely on minor procedural errors without assessing their impact on the overall fairness of the examination, is also problematic. While procedural adherence is important, the focus should be on whether any deviations significantly compromised the validity of the results or created an unfair advantage for some candidates. The professional decision-making process in such situations should involve 1. Acknowledging the reported concern and initiating a formal review. 2. Establishing a clear protocol for the investigation, ensuring impartiality and thoroughness. 3. Gathering all relevant evidence, including examination materials, applicant records, and witness statements if applicable. 4. Analyzing the evidence to determine the nature and extent of any irregularities. 5. Consulting relevant university policies and ethical guidelines. 6. Making a decision based on the findings, ensuring fairness and transparency. 7. Communicating the decision and the rationale to relevant stakeholders. Question 6. The analysis reveals that the Adventist University of Haiti Entrance Exam Committee is tasked with developing a comprehensive risk assessment plan to safeguard the integrity and fairness of the upcoming examination. They are considering various approaches to identify and address potential vulnerabilities. Which of the following approaches best aligns with robust risk management principles for an educational entrance examination? Option A. Implementing risk mitigation strategies that are the least expensive, even if they offer less robust protection against potential disruptions. Option B. Assigning the entire risk assessment responsibility to the administrative staff without specialized training in risk management or examination security. Option C. Relying primarily on historical data from previous exams to identify risks, assuming that past issues are the only significant threats to consider. Option D. A systematic process of identifying potential risks, assessing their likelihood and impact, and developing specific, actionable mitigation strategies for each identified risk, while also establishing a monitoring mechanism. The correct answer is D. A systematic process of identifying potential risks, assessing their likelihood and impact, and developing specific, actionable mitigation strategies for each identified risk, while also establishing a monitoring mechanism. Explanation. The scenario presents a challenge in risk assessment for a university entrance exam, specifically concerning the integrity of the examination process. The professional challenge lies in balancing the need for a robust and fair assessment with the practicalities of implementation and the potential for unforeseen issues. Careful judgment is required to identify and mitigate risks effectively without unduly hindering the examination process or creating new vulnerabilities. The correct approach involves a comprehensive and proactive identification of potential risks, followed by the development of specific mitigation strategies tailored to each identified risk. This includes considering both internal factors, e.g., exam content security, invigilator training, and external factors, e.g., technological disruptions, unforeseen environmental issues. This systematic process aligns with best practices in risk management, emphasizing foresight and preparedness. While specific regulations for the Adventist University of Haiti entrance exam are not detailed here, the ethical imperative to ensure fairness, academic integrity, and a secure testing environment is universally applicable and forms the basis of sound risk assessment in educational settings. An approach that focuses solely on past performance without considering evolving threats or new vulnerabilities is professionally deficient. It fails to acknowledge that risks can change and new ones can emerge, leaving the examination process susceptible to novel forms of disruption or malpractice. This reactive stance, rather than a proactive one, is a significant ethical and professional failing in risk management. Another incorrect approach is to prioritize cost-cutting measures above all else when developing risk mitigation strategies. While financial prudence is important, compromising the integrity or security of the examination process due to cost concerns is ethically unacceptable. It undermines the credibility of the assessment and can lead to unfair outcomes for candidates. This approach prioritizes financial expediency over the fundamental principles of fairness and academic rigor. A third incorrect approach involves delegating the entire risk assessment process to individuals with limited understanding of examination procedures or risk management principles. This lack of expertise can lead to the overlooking of critical risks or the implementation of ineffective mitigation strategies. It demonstrates a failure to ensure adequate competence and oversight in a crucial area, potentially jeopardizing the entire examination's validity. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured risk assessment framework. This typically includes identifying potential risks, analyzing their likelihood and impact, evaluating existing controls, determining the level of risk, and planning for mitigation and monitoring. Professionals should consult relevant guidelines and best practices, engage stakeholders with relevant expertise, and maintain a continuous review process to adapt to changing circumstances. Question 7. The monitoring system demonstrates a significant increase in unauthorized access attempts to the university's student information portal, alongside a spike in unusual outbound network traffic originating from administrative servers. Which of the following represents the most appropriate initial risk assessment approach? Option A. Analyze the patterns and anomalies in the access attempts and network traffic to identify potential security vulnerabilities or malicious activities that could impact institutional operations or data integrity. Option B. Document the total number of access attempts and the volume of outbound traffic to create a statistical report on system activity. Option C. Focus on identifying the most frequently occurring types of access attempts and the most common destinations for outbound network traffic. Option D. Investigate the technical specifications and performance metrics of the monitoring system to ensure it is functioning optimally. The correct answer is A. Analyze the patterns and anomalies in the access attempts and network traffic to identify potential security vulnerabilities or malicious activities that could impact institutional operations or data integrity. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires the applicant to interpret data from a monitoring system and apply it to a risk assessment framework relevant to the Adventist University of Haiti's operational context. The challenge lies in distinguishing between mere observation of system activity and a proactive, informed assessment of potential risks that could impact the university's mission and resources. Careful judgment is required to move beyond superficial data points and identify actionable insights that align with the university's ethical and operational standards. The correct approach involves identifying anomalies or patterns in the monitoring system that suggest a deviation from normal operations and could indicate a potential threat or vulnerability. This approach is right because it directly addresses the core of risk assessment, anticipating and mitigating potential negative events. By focusing on deviations that could impact the university's academic, administrative, or financial functions, the applicant demonstrates an understanding of how technology can be leveraged for proactive risk management, aligning with principles of good governance and institutional integrity expected within an academic setting like the Adventist University of Haiti. This proactive stance is ethically sound, as it prioritizes the safeguarding of the institution and its stakeholders. An approach that focuses solely on the volume of data without context is professionally unacceptable because it represents a passive and superficial engagement with the monitoring system. It fails to translate raw data into meaningful risk indicators. This approach is ethically deficient as it neglects the responsibility to actively identify and address potential threats. An approach that prioritizes identifying the most frequent system activities is also professionally unacceptable. While frequency can be a factor in risk, it is not the sole determinant. High frequency of a routine, low-risk activity does not warrant the same attention as a low-frequency but high-impact anomaly. This approach lacks the nuanced judgment required for effective risk assessment and could lead to misallocation of resources and attention. An approach that seeks to understand the technical specifications of the monitoring system without linking them to potential risks is professionally inadequate. While technical understanding is important, the ultimate goal of a monitoring system in a risk assessment context is to identify and mitigate threats, not merely to understand the technology itself. This approach fails to bridge the gap between technical knowledge and practical risk management application. The professional reasoning process for similar situations should involve 1. Understanding the objectives of the monitoring system within the institution's overall risk management strategy. 2. Identifying deviations from established baselines or expected patterns. 3. Evaluating the potential impact of these deviations on the institution's operations, reputation, and resources. And 4. Prioritizing responses based on the severity and likelihood of the identified risks. This systematic approach ensures that monitoring data is used effectively to inform decision-making and protect the institution. Question 8. To address the challenge of ensuring a fair and equitable admissions process for the Adventist University of Haiti's entrance exam, which of the following risk assessment approaches would best uphold the university's commitment to its students and regulatory compliance? Option A. Focusing primarily on streamlining the logistical aspects of exam administration, such as timely distribution of materials and efficient grading. Expedite the admissions timeline. Option B. Prioritizing the selection of exam questions based solely on their academic difficulty to rigorously test applicants' knowledge, assuming that difficulty inherently ensures fairness. Option C. Implementing a comprehensive risk assessment framework that identifies potential biases in question content, ensures secure examination environments, and establishes clear protocols for handling applicant grievances, with a focus on proactive mitigation strategies aligned with Haitian educational guidelines. Option D. Relying on informal feedback from previous exam administrators and faculty to gauge potential issues, without a structured process for documentation or analysis. The correct answer is C. Implementing a comprehensive risk assessment framework that identifies potential biases in question content, ensures secure examination environments, and establishes clear protocols for handling applicant grievances, with a focus on proactive mitigation strategies aligned with Haitian educational guidelines. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because the university entrance exam for Adventist University of Haiti must adhere to specific Haitian regulatory frameworks and ethical guidelines governing educational institutions and admissions processes. A risk assessment approach is crucial to identify potential biases, ensure fairness, and maintain the integrity of the admissions process, thereby upholding the university's reputation and its commitment to its founding principles. Careful judgment is required to balance the need for rigorous evaluation with equitable treatment of all applicants. The correct approach involves a systematic identification and evaluation of potential risks to the fairness and validity of the entrance exam, followed by the development of mitigation strategies. This aligns with the ethical imperative of providing equal opportunity and the regulatory requirement for transparent and non-discriminatory admissions. By proactively addressing potential issues such as biased question design, inadequate proctoring, or accessibility barriers, the university demonstrates its commitment to a robust and ethical admissions process, as expected by Haitian educational authorities and the Adventist community. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on the academic rigor of the exam without considering potential biases fails to meet ethical and regulatory standards. Such an approach risks perpetuating systemic inequalities and could lead to challenges regarding the fairness of the admissions process, potentially violating principles of equal opportunity enshrined in Haitian law or university policy. Another incorrect approach that prioritizes speed and efficiency in the admissions process over thorough risk assessment overlooks critical vulnerabilities. This can result in overlooking significant risks that could compromise the integrity of the exam, leading to unfair outcomes and potential legal or reputational damage for the university. A third incorrect approach that relies on anecdotal evidence or past practices without a structured risk assessment is insufficient. This method lacks the systematic rigor required to identify and address all potential risks, leaving the university exposed to unforeseen problems and failing to meet the standards of due diligence expected in educational admissions. Professionals tasked with developing and administering university entrance exams should employ a structured risk assessment framework. This involves clearly defining the objectives of the exam, identifying potential threats to achieving those objectives, e.g., bias, security breaches, logistical failures, assessing the likelihood and impact of each threat, and developing appropriate control measures. This systematic process ensures that decisions are evidence-based, ethically sound, and compliant with all relevant regulations, thereby safeguarding the integrity and fairness of the admissions process. Question 9. The review process indicates that an applicant for the Adventist University of Haiti's entrance exam has disclosed a significant personal crisis that may have impacted their preparation and performance. The admissions committee must assess the risk to the integrity of the admissions process and the applicant's suitability. Which of the following approaches best addresses this situation? Option A. Grant the applicant automatic admission based on their disclosed personal circumstances, prioritizing empathy over the standard evaluation process. Option B. Immediately disqualify the applicant due to the potential for compromised exam performance, citing the need to maintain the highest standards of academic integrity. Option C. Conduct a comprehensive risk assessment that documents the nature of the personal crisis, evaluates its potential impact on exam performance and academic integrity, and proposes appropriate accommodations or alternative evaluation methods, while ensuring adherence to university policies and Haitian educational guidelines. Option D. Postpone the decision indefinitely until the applicant's personal crisis is fully resolved, without establishing a clear timeline or alternative assessment plan. Correct answer is C. Conduct a comprehensive risk assessment that documents the nature of the personal crisis, evaluates its potential impact on exam performance and academic integrity, and proposes appropriate accommodations or alternative evaluation methods, while ensuring adherence to university policies and Haitian educational guidelines. Explanation: this scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the university's commitment to academic integrity with the need to support a student facing personal difficulties. The entrance exam is a critical gatekeeper, and ensuring its fairness and validity is paramount. However, a rigid adherence to process without considering mitigating circumstances could lead to an unfair outcome for an applicant who might otherwise be a strong candidate. The challenge lies in applying the established risk assessment framework in a nuanced and ethically sound manner, consistent with the Adventist University of Haiti's guiding principles and any applicable Haitian educational regulations. The correct approach involves a thorough, documented risk assessment that considers both the academic integrity of the exam and the applicant's circumstances. This approach is right because it acknowledges the potential risks to the exam's validity, e.g., cheating, undue influence, while also demonstrating empathy and a commitment to a fair evaluation process. Specifically, it involves gathering all relevant information, objectively assessing the likelihood and impact of the identified risks, and developing appropriate mitigation strategies. This aligns with ethical principles of fairness, due process, and responsible decision-making, and would be supported by any internal university policies on admissions and student support, as well as general Haitian educational guidelines that promote equitable access to higher education. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on the immediate risk of the applicant's situation without a comprehensive assessment fails to uphold the principles of fairness and due process. It might lead to an arbitrary decision that could be challenged. Another incorrect approach that prioritizes the applicant's personal circumstances above all else, potentially overlooking or downplaying genuine risks to exam integrity, would undermine the credibility of the admissions process and could set a precedent for future admissions that is not based on merit or fair evaluation. A third incorrect approach that involves making a decision without proper documentation or consultation would violate internal university procedures and potentially expose the university to reputational damage or legal challenges. Professionals should approach such situations by first understanding the established risk assessment framework and its objectives. They should then gather all pertinent facts, objectively evaluate the identified risks and their potential impact, and consider various mitigation strategies. Decision-making should be guided by university policies, ethical considerations, and any relevant national educational regulations, ensuring transparency and fairness throughout the process. Question 10. What factors determine the comprehensiveness of a risk assessment for the Adventist University of Haiti's entrance examination process, ensuring it safeguards academic integrity and institutional stability? Option A. The number of application forms processed and the speed at which admissions decisions are made. Option B. The cost-effectiveness of the examination administration without regard to the quality of candidates admitted. Option C. The perceived ease of the examination for prospective students to maximize enrollment numbers. Option D. The extent to which the assessment considers potential academic preparedness of applicants, the capacity of support services to address student needs, and the university's contingency plans for operational disruptions. The correct answer is D. The extent to which the assessment considers potential academic preparedness of applicants, the capacity of support services to address student needs, and the university's contingency plans for operational disruptions. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires an applicant to demonstrate an understanding of how to identify and mitigate potential risks that could impact the university's academic integrity and operational efficiency. A thorough risk assessment is crucial for any institution, especially an educational one, to ensure its long-term sustainability and the quality of education it provides. Careful judgment is required to distinguish between superficial concerns and genuine threats that necessitate proactive measures. The correct approach involves a systematic evaluation of potential internal and external threats to the university's mission and operations. This includes considering factors such as the adequacy of admissions criteria in identifying suitable candidates, the effectiveness of academic support systems in preventing student attrition, and the university's preparedness for unforeseen events like natural disasters or changes in government policy that could affect its operations or student body. This approach aligns with the principles of good governance and strategic planning expected of any reputable academic institution, ensuring that resources are allocated effectively to address vulnerabilities and capitalize on opportunities. While specific regulations for the Adventist University of Haiti entrance exam might not be publicly detailed in a general context, the underlying principles of risk management are universally applicable to educational institutions aiming for quality and stability. An incorrect approach would be to focus solely on the immediate administrative burden of processing applications, without considering the long-term implications for student success and institutional reputation. This overlooks the critical link between admissions and academic outcomes. Another incorrect approach would be to prioritize the recruitment of a large number of students above all else, potentially compromising the quality of the student body and the academic standards of the university. This short-sighted focus on quantity over quality can lead to increased dropout rates and a diminished reputation. Finally, an approach that neglects to consider external factors such as the socio-economic environment or potential regulatory changes would be flawed, as it fails to prepare the university for challenges beyond its direct control, jeopardizing its ability to fulfill its mission. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with clearly defining the objectives of the entrance exam and the university's broader mission. This is followed by identifying potential risks that could hinder the achievement of these objectives. For each identified risk, the likelihood and potential impact should be assessed. Subsequently, appropriate mitigation strategies should be developed and implemented. Regular review and adaptation of the risk assessment process are essential to ensure its continued relevance and effectiveness. Question 11. The monitoring system demonstrates a statistically significant deviation in the response patterns of a small cohort of applicants during the standardized aptitude section of the Adventist University of Haiti's entrance exam, suggesting potential irregularities. Which of the following represents the most appropriate initial risk assessment approach? Option A. Disregard the deviation as a potential statistical anomaly and proceed with standard scoring. Option B. Initiate a formal investigation into the observed response patterns to identify the underlying cause and assess the impact on exam integrity. Option C. Immediately disqualify the entire cohort exhibiting the deviation to maintain the perceived fairness of the exam. Option D. Implement a mandatory re-examination for all applicants who scored within a certain range of the affected cohort. The correct answer is B. Initiate a formal investigation into the observed response patterns to identify the underlying cause and assess the impact on exam integrity. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires the applicant to interpret data from a monitoring system and apply it to a risk assessment context relevant to the Adventist University of Haiti's entrance exam process. The challenge lies in discerning the most appropriate and ethically sound response to potential irregularities, ensuring fairness and integrity in admissions. Careful judgment is required to avoid overreacting to minor deviations or underestimating significant risks. The correct approach involves a systematic and evidence-based evaluation of the observed anomalies. This means not jumping to conclusions, but rather initiating a thorough investigation to understand the root cause of the deviations. This aligns with principles of due diligence and fairness, ensuring that any decisions made are well-founded and do not unfairly penalize candidates. In the context of an educational institution's entrance exam, maintaining the integrity of the assessment process is paramount, and a measured, investigative response upholds this principle. An incorrect approach that immediately assumes malfeasance without investigation fails to adhere to principles of natural justice and due process. It risks unjustly accusing individuals or groups and can damage the university's reputation. Another incorrect approach, which is to ignore the anomalies altogether, represents a failure of oversight and a dereliction of duty to ensure the fairness and validity of the entrance examination. This can lead to compromised admission standards and erode trust in the institution. A third incorrect approach, which is to implement broad, punitive measures without understanding the cause, is disproportionate and unethical, as it punishes all for the potential actions of a few, or for systemic issues that could be addressed more constructively. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes data verification, root cause analysis, and proportionate response. This involves 1. Acknowledging the observed data. 2. Initiating a fact-finding process to understand the nature and extent of the anomalies. 3. Consulting relevant university policies and ethical guidelines for admissions and exam administration. 4. Developing a response that is proportionate to the confirmed risks, focusing on remediation and prevention rather than immediate punitive action, unless clear evidence of misconduct is established. Question 12. Market research demonstrates that a significant number of applicants for the upcoming academic year have expressed concerns about the fairness of the recent entrance examination. These concerns range from allegations of inadequate supervision in certain testing centers to questions about the security of the examination materials prior to distribution. As an administrator responsible for the admissions process at the Adventist University of Haiti, what is the most appropriate course of action to ensure the integrity of the admissions process? Option A. Publicly acknowledge the concerns and immediately announce a re-examination for all applicants to ensure absolute fairness, regardless of the validity of the initial claims. Option B. Advise the admissions committee to proceed with the admissions based on the current results, while assuring applicants that all concerns have been noted for future examinations. Option C. Focus solely on the academic qualifications of the applicants as presented in their application files, disregarding any feedback related to the examination process itself. Option D. Initiate a comprehensive review of the examination administration procedures, focusing on verifying compliance with established protocols and investigating specific allegations of irregularities. The correct answer is D. Initiate a comprehensive review of the examination administration procedures, focusing on verifying compliance with established protocols and investigating specific allegations of irregularities. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the university's need for accurate admissions data with the ethical obligation to ensure the integrity of the entrance examination process. The pressure to meet enrollment targets can create a temptation to overlook irregularities, but adherence to established examination protocols and ethical guidelines is paramount. Careful judgment is required to identify and address any potential compromises to the fairness and validity of the exam. The correct approach involves a systematic and documented review of the examination process, focusing on identifying any deviations from established protocols, that could have impacted the fairness or accuracy of the results. This includes verifying the security of examination materials, ensuring proper administration by proctors, and investigating any reported anomalies. This approach is justified by the Adventist University of Haiti's commitment to academic integrity and its responsibility to uphold fair and equitable admission standards. Adhering to these principles ensures that admissions are based on genuine merit and that the university's reputation for academic rigor is maintained. An incorrect approach that involves overlooking minor discrepancies without thorough investigation fails to uphold the university's commitment to fairness. This could lead to admitting students who did not genuinely meet the admission criteria, thereby undermining the academic standards of the university. Another incorrect approach, which is to immediately assume widespread cheating and halt the entire process without concrete evidence, is also professionally unsound. This would be an overreaction, potentially damaging the reputation of the university and unfairly penalizing legitimate candidates. A third incorrect approach, which is to focus solely on the outcome of the admissions process without scrutinizing the examination procedures, neglects the fundamental requirement of a fair and transparent selection mechanism. This approach prioritizes expediency over integrity, which is ethically unacceptable. Professionals in this situation should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes evidence-based judgment, adherence to established protocols, and ethical considerations. This involves 1. Acknowledging the reported concerns and initiating a formal review process. 2. Gathering all relevant documentation and evidence related to the examination administration. 3. Objectively assessing any deviations from established procedures. 4. Consulting with relevant university authorities and adhering to established policies for handling examination irregularities. 5. Making decisions based on factual findings and ethical principles, ensuring fairness to all candidates and the integrity of the university's admissions process. Question 13. The risk matrix shows a high probability of qualified applicants being denied admission due to program capacity constraints. Which of the following represents the most ethically sound and procedurally optimized approach for the Adventist University of Haiti's admissions committee to address this identified risk? Option A. Prioritize expanding physical infrastructure without a concurrent assessment of faculty availability and academic support services. Option B. Conduct a comprehensive review of admission criteria and program resource allocation to identify opportunities for increasing student intake without compromising academic quality. Option C. Lower the admission standards across all programs to ensure that a larger number of applicants can be accepted. Option D. Maintain the current admission standards and capacity limits, acknowledging that not all qualified applicants can be accommodated. The correct answer is B. Conduct a comprehensive review of admission criteria and program resource allocation to identify opportunities for increasing student intake without compromising academic quality. Explanation. The scenario presents a common challenge in academic institutions, balancing the need for efficient resource allocation with the ethical imperative of ensuring equitable access to educational opportunities. The risk matrix, a tool for identifying and prioritizing potential issues, highlights that a significant number of qualified applicants may be denied admission due to capacity limitations. This creates a professional dilemma for the admissions committee, requiring them to make difficult decisions that have a profound impact on individuals' futures and the university's reputation. The challenge lies in navigating these decisions in a manner that is both fair and compliant with the guiding principles of the Adventist University of Haiti. The correct approach involves a systematic review of the admissions process to identify bottlenecks and inefficiencies that contribute to the denial of qualified candidates. This includes evaluating the criteria used for selection, the capacity of academic programs, and the availability of resources to support a larger student body. The Adventist University of Haiti, as an educational institution, is guided by principles of fairness, academic excellence, and service. Therefore, optimizing the process to admit more qualified students, where feasible, aligns with its mission to provide education and foster intellectual growth. This approach prioritizes a proactive and solutions-oriented strategy to address the identified risk, aiming to increase access without compromising academic standards. An incorrect approach would be to simply accept the current capacity limitations as an unchangeable reality and continue with the existing selection process, even if it means turning away many deserving applicants. This fails to address the identified risk and neglects the university's potential to serve more students. Another incorrect approach would be to lower admission standards to accommodate more students, thereby compromising academic rigor and potentially damaging the university's reputation. This would be ethically questionable, as it undermines the commitment to academic excellence. A third incorrect approach would be to focus solely on increasing physical capacity, without considering the availability of qualified faculty and essential academic support services. This could lead to an overburdened system, negatively impacting the quality of education for all students. Professionals in this situation should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a thorough understanding of the problem as depicted in the risk matrix. This involves gathering data on applicant qualifications, program capacities, and resource availability. Next, they should brainstorm potential solutions, considering both immediate adjustments and long-term strategic planning. Each potential solution should be evaluated against the university's mission, ethical principles, and regulatory guidelines. The chosen approach should be transparent, justifiable, and focused on achieving the best possible outcome for both the applicants and the institution. Question 14. The control framework reveals that an applicant for the Adventist University of Haiti's entrance exam has submitted an incomplete application, missing a required essay section. The admissions officer is aware that the applicant is a promising candidate but is struggling with the essay writing component. What is the most appropriate course of action for the admissions officer to take, adhering strictly to the university's established admission policies and ethical guidelines? Option A. Forward the applicant's incomplete application to the admissions committee for a discretionary review, hoping they will overlook the missing component. Option B. Directly assist the applicant in drafting or completing the essay to ensure their application is considered. Option C. Inform the applicant of the missing essay and provide clear guidelines on the essay's requirements and submission deadline, allowing them to complete and resubmit it within the stipulated timeframe. Option D. Reject the application immediately due to the incomplete submission without further communication. The correct answer is C. Inform the applicant of the missing essay and provide clear guidelines on the essay's requirements and submission deadline, allowing them to complete and resubmit it within the stipulated timeframe. Explanation. The scenario presents a challenge in balancing academic integrity with the need to support prospective students, a common ethical tightrope for educational institutions. The control framework in this context refers to the internal policies and external regulations governing admissions and academic honesty at the Adventist University of Haiti. The professional challenge lies in ensuring that the university's admissions process is fair, transparent, and upholds its academic standards, while also providing guidance to applicants who may be struggling. Misinterpreting or circumventing these controls can lead to compromised admissions, reputational damage, and potential disciplinary action against university staff. The correct approach involves a thorough review of the applicant's submitted materials against the established admission criteria, coupled with a clear and direct communication of any deficiencies. This aligns with the university's commitment to academic rigor and fair evaluation. Specifically, it adheres to the principles of transparency and accountability inherent in any educational institution's admissions policy. By clearly outlining what is missing or needs improvement, the university upholds its standards and provides the applicant with actionable feedback, respecting their right to a fair assessment. This also prevents the university from admitting students who do not meet the minimum requirements, thereby protecting the academic environment for all students. An incorrect approach that involves providing a template answer or directly assisting the applicant in completing their application materials would be ethically unsound and a violation of academic integrity principles. This action would undermine the purpose of the entrance exam and the application process, which is to assess the applicant's own capabilities and preparedness. It would also be a breach of trust with the university and potentially with other applicants who followed the process honestly. Furthermore, such an action could be seen as a form of academic dishonesty or favoritism, which is unacceptable in any educational setting and likely contrary to the Adventist University of Haiti's own ethical guidelines and admission regulations. Another incorrect approach, that of simply rejecting the application without providing any feedback, fails to uphold the principle of fairness and support that an educational institution should strive for. While it adheres to the letter of the admission criteria, It neglects the spirit of assisting prospective students and providing them with an opportunity to understand and potentially rectify their shortcomings. This can be perceived as an arbitrary or unsupportive process, which is detrimental to the university's reputation and its mission to educate. The professional decision-making process in such situations should involve a clear understanding of the university's admission policies and ethical guidelines. When faced with an incomplete application or a struggling applicant, the first step is to consult the relevant internal policies. If the policy is unclear, seeking guidance from the admissions committee or a designated supervisor is crucial. The focus should always be on objective evaluation against established criteria and providing constructive, transparent feedback. This ensures fairness, maintains academic integrity, and upholds the reputation of the institution. Question 15. Process analysis reveals that a highly qualified applicant for the Adventist University of Haiti's entrance exam has parents who are prominent alumni and significant donors to the university. The admissions committee is aware of this family connection. What is the most ethically sound and professionally responsible approach for the admissions committee to take when evaluating this applicant's entrance exam performance and overall application? Option A. Grant the applicant preferential consideration in the admissions decision due to their parents' strong ties and contributions to the university, as this aligns with fostering a supportive alumni community. Option B. Reject the applicant's application outright to avoid any perception of favoritism, regardless of their academic qualifications, to maintain the appearance of impartiality. Option C. Allow the applicant's parents to directly advocate for their child's admission to the admissions committee, believing their influence will ensure a fair review. Option D. Evaluate the applicant's entrance exam performance and application strictly based on the university's published admission criteria, ensuring the family's affiliation does not influence the objective assessment of their qualifications. The correct answer is D. Evaluate the applicant's entrance exam performance and application strictly based on the university's published admission criteria, ensuring the family's affiliation does not influence the objective assessment of their qualifications. Explanation. The scenario presents a common challenge in university admissions where an applicant's family has a strong connection to the institution. This connection, while potentially beneficial in other contexts, introduces a significant ethical consideration regarding fairness and equal opportunity in the admissions process. The challenge lies in balancing the university's desire to acknowledge and potentially support its community with the absolute requirement to maintain an impartial and merit-based selection process for all candidates. The Adventist University of Haiti, like any reputable educational institution, must adhere to principles of transparency, equity, and non-discrimination in its admissions. The correct approach involves a rigorous, objective evaluation of the applicant's qualifications against the established admission criteria, without allowing the family's affiliation to unduly influence the decision. This upholds the university's commitment to academic merit and ensures that all applicants are assessed on a level playing field. This aligns with ethical principles of fairness and impartiality, and implicitly with any guiding principles or regulations that govern admissions at the Adventist University of Haiti, which would prioritize academic suitability and adherence to stated admission policies over personal connections. An incorrect approach would be to grant preferential treatment based solely on the family's affiliation. This directly violates the principle of equal opportunity and could lead to the admission of less qualified candidates, undermining the academic integrity of the university. Such an action would be ethically unsound and could expose the university to criticism and potential regulatory scrutiny if specific admissions guidelines or ethical codes exist that prohibit such favoritism. Another incorrect approach would be to completely disregard the applicant's qualifications and reject them solely due to the family's connection, fearing accusations of favoritism. This is also professionally unsound, as it fails to give due consideration to the applicant's own merits and could be seen as discriminatory against the applicant based on their family's background. The university has a responsibility to assess each applicant on their individual merits. The professional decision-making process in such situations requires a clear understanding and strict adherence to the university's published admission criteria and any relevant ethical guidelines. It involves a commitment to objectivity, ensuring that all decisions are based on evidence of academic achievement and potential, and are free from bias or undue influence. When faced with potential conflicts of interest or perceived favoritism, professionals should always default to the established, transparent, and equitable procedures. Question 16. Process analysis reveals that an applicant for the Adventist University of Haiti's entrance exam has a close family member who is a current faculty member in the department they are applying to. Considering the university's commitment to academic integrity and fair admissions, what is the most ethically sound and procedurally correct action for the applicant to take? Option A. Proactively disclose the familial relationship to the admissions committee in writing, requesting guidance on how to proceed. Option B. Withdraw the application immediately without informing the university of the reason for withdrawal. Option C. Assume the faculty member's position will not influence the evaluation and proceed with the application without mentioning the relationship. Option D. Conceal the familial relationship to avoid any potential perception of favoritism. The correct answer is A. Proactively disclose the familial relationship to the admissions committee in writing, requesting guidance on how to proceed. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires an applicant to demonstrate an understanding of the ethical and regulatory considerations surrounding academic integrity within the context of the Adventist University of Haiti's entrance examination process. The core of the challenge lies in balancing the need for a fair and transparent admissions process with the university's commitment to upholding its values and academic standards. Applicants must navigate potential conflicts of interest and demonstrate an awareness of the consequences of unethical behavior, all within the specific framework of Haitian educational regulations and the university's own guidelines. The correct approach involves proactively disclosing any potential conflicts of interest to the admissions committee. This demonstrates integrity, transparency, and respect for the university's established procedures. By informing the committee, the applicant allows them to make an informed decision about the application, ensuring fairness for all candidates and upholding the university's commitment to an unbiased selection process. This aligns with general ethical principles of honesty and disclosure, and implicitly with any Haitian educational regulations that emphasize fair competition and academic probity in admissions. An incorrect approach would be to conceal the relationship with a current faculty member. This constitutes a failure of disclosure and an attempt to gain an unfair advantage, which is ethically reprehensible and likely violates university policies on academic integrity and admissions. It undermines the trust placed in the applicant and the admissions process. Another incorrect approach would be to assume the relationship will not influence the evaluation. This demonstrates a lack of awareness of potential biases, both perceived and actual, and a disregard for the importance of maintaining a level playing field for all applicants. It fails to acknowledge the ethical imperative to avoid even the appearance of impropriety. Finally, an incorrect approach would be to withdraw the application without disclosure. While this avoids direct ethical breach, it misses an opportunity to demonstrate integrity through transparent communication and allows the admissions committee to manage the situation appropriately. It is a passive response that does not actively uphold ethical standards. The professional decision-making process for similar situations involves 1. Identifying potential ethical conflicts or biases. 2. Consulting relevant university policies and ethical guidelines. 3. Prioritizing transparency and honest disclosure. 4. Seeking guidance from appropriate university officials if unsure. 5. Acting in a manner that upholds academic integrity and fairness for all stakeholders. Question 17. Process analysis reveals that the Adventist University of Haiti's admissions committee is reviewing applicant profiles for the upcoming academic year. The committee is considering different methods to assess candidates beyond their academic transcripts, aiming to identify individuals who will best contribute to the university's mission and community. What approach best balances the need for comprehensive evaluation with ethical considerations and adherence to potential Haitian educational guidelines? Option A. Sharing detailed applicant personal statements and recommendation letters with a broader university staff group for informal feedback without explicit applicant consent. Option B. Focusing exclusively on standardized test scores and GPA, assuming these are the sole indicators of future success. Option C. Implementing a standardized interview process conducted by trained admissions officers, supplemented by a review of extracurricular activities and personal essays, all evaluated against predefined criteria. Option D. relying primarily on the subjective impressions and personal networks of senior faculty members to gauge applicant suitability. The correct answer is C. Implementing a standardized interview process conducted by trained admissions officers, supplemented by a review of extracurricular activities and personal essays, all evaluated against predefined criteria. Explanation: this scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the university's need for accurate admissions data with the ethical obligation to protect applicant privacy and ensure fairness. The admissions committee must navigate the potential for bias inherent in subjective assessments while adhering to the Adventist University of Haiti's stated values and any relevant Haitian educational regulations concerning admissions processes. Careful judgment is required to ensure that the evaluation methods are both effective in identifying suitable candidates and equitable for all applicants. The correct approach involves a structured, multifaceted evaluation that combines objective academic metrics with qualitative assessments conducted by trained personnel. This method is justified by the need for a comprehensive understanding of each applicant's potential, aligning with the university's goal of admitting well-rounded individuals. Furthermore, it promotes fairness by minimizing reliance on single, potentially biased, subjective judgments, and by ensuring that all applicants are assessed against consistent criteria. This aligns with ethical principles of fairness and transparency in admissions, an approach that relies solely on subjective interviews without standardized criteria risks introducing personal biases and inconsistencies, potentially violating principles of equal opportunity and fair assessment. This could also contravene any implicit or explicit Haitian regulations governing fair admissions practices in higher education, an approach that prioritizes only academic scores, ignoring other crucial aspects of a candidate's profile such as character, motivation, and potential for contribution to the university community, presents an incomplete picture. While academic merit is important, a holistic review is often considered best practice in university admissions to identify candidates who will thrive and contribute beyond academics. This could lead to overlooking promising individuals who might excel in other areas. An approach that involves sharing applicant personal information with external, unauthorized parties without explicit consent would be a severe breach of privacy and data protection regulations, likely violating Haitian data privacy laws and ethical codes of conduct for educational institutions. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with understanding the university's mission and values, followed by a thorough review of applicable Haitian educational regulations and ethical guidelines for admissions. This framework should emphasize the development of clear, objective criteria for evaluation, coupled with standardized qualitative assessment methods. Regular training for admissions personnel on bias mitigation and ethical conduct is crucial. Finally, a process for review and appeal should be established to ensure fairness and accountability. Question 18. Process analysis reveals that the Adventist University of Haiti's Admissions Committee is tasked with selecting candidates who will not only succeed academically, but also contribute positively to the university's distinct Christian mission and community values. Considering the regulatory framework governing higher education in Haiti and the university's founding principles, which approach best balances academic merit with the university's unique identity while ensuring fairness. Option A. An admissions process that strictly ranks applicants based solely on their final secondary school examination scores, as these are the most objective measure of academic potential. Option B. An admissions process that heavily favors applicants with extensive community service records and leadership roles in extracurricular activities, assuming these individuals are more likely to embody the university's values. Option C. A comprehensive evaluation that assesses academic achievements, personal essays, letters of recommendation, and demonstrated alignment with the university's mission and values, as outlined in established, objective admissions criteria. Option D. An admissions process where committee members are encouraged to admit candidates they personally feel would be a good fit for the university, allowing for individual judgment and intuition to guide decisions. Correct answer is C. A comprehensive evaluation that assesses academic achievements, personal essays, letters of recommendation, and demonstrated alignment with the university's mission and values, as outlined in established, objective admissions criteria. Explanation. The scenario presents a challenge common in university admissions. balancing the university's stated mission and values with the practical realities of selecting qualified candidates. The Adventist University of Haiti, like any educational institution, operates under a framework of its founding principles and any applicable national educational regulations. The challenge lies in ensuring that the admissions process, while striving for fairness and merit, also upholds the unique ethos of the university. A deep analysis requires understanding how these two aspects, institutional identity and regulatory compliance, interact. The correct approach involves a holistic review that considers not only academic merit, but also alignment with the university's mission and values, as interpreted through established admissions criteria. This approach is ethically sound and professionally responsible because it respects the university's right to define its community while adhering to principles of fairness. It acknowledges that success at the university may encompass more than just academic scores, including potential contributions to the university's spiritual, social, and academic environment, provided these are assessed objectively and without discrimination prohibited by Haitian law or university policy. This aligns with the principle of institutional autonomy within a legal and ethical framework. An incorrect approach that prioritizes solely academic scores without considering the university's mission risks creating a student body that may not fully engage with or contribute to the unique environment the university aims to foster. This could lead to a disconnect between the university's stated purpose and its actual student experience. Another incorrect approach that focuses exclusively on extracurricular activities or personal connections, while neglecting academic preparedness, would fail to uphold the university's commitment to academic rigor and could lead to students struggling to succeed in their studies. This would be professionally irresponsible, as it undermines the core educational purpose of the institution. Finally, an approach that allows for subjective biases or personal preferences to unduly influence admissions decisions, even if framed as holistic, is ethically unacceptable and potentially violates principles of equal opportunity and fairness, which are often enshrined in national educational guidelines. Such an approach erodes trust in the admissions process. The professional decision-making process for similar situations involves 1. Understanding the university's mission, values, and strategic goals. 2. Familiarizing oneself with all relevant Haitian educational laws and university-specific admissions policies. 3. Developing clear, objective, and consistently applied admissions criteria that reflect both academic standards and the desired student profile. 4. Implementing a transparent and fair evaluation process that allows for diverse forms of evidence of potential success. 5. Regularly reviewing and updating admissions practices to ensure ongoing alignment with institutional goals and regulatory requirements. 6. Seeking guidance from university leadership and legal counsel when complex ethical or legal questions arise. Question 19. Process analysis reveals that an applicant for the Adventist University of Haiti's entrance exam has submitted their application with a crucial document missing, and the admissions deadline is rapidly approaching. The admissions office is under pressure to meet enrollment targets for the upcoming academic year. Considering the university's commitment to academic integrity and fair admission practices, what is the most appropriate course of action for the admissions committee? Option A. Expedite the admission of the applicant by overlooking the missing document to ensure enrollment targets are met, with a plan to request the document after admission is granted. Option B. Thoroughly review the applicant's file, consult the university's admission policies regarding incomplete applications, and if permissible by policy, contact the applicant to request the missing document within a defined timeframe before making a final decision. Option C. Immediately reject the application due to the missing document, without further inquiry or consideration of the applicant's circumstances. Option D. Accept the application with a provisional status, noting the missing document, and defer the requirement for its submission to a later, unspecified date. The correct answer is B. Thoroughly review the applicant's file, consult the university's admission policies regarding incomplete applications, and if permissible by policy, contact the applicant to request the missing document within a defined timeframe before making a final decision. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge rooted in the ethical imperative of academic integrity and the university's responsibility to uphold fair admission standards. The challenge lies in balancing the university's need to attract qualified students with the obligation to ensure that all applicants are evaluated on merit and in accordance with established procedures. The pressure to meet enrollment targets can create a temptation to overlook procedural irregularities, but doing so would undermine the credibility of the admissions process and potentially disadvantage other deserving candidates. The correct approach involves a thorough and impartial review of the applicant's documentation, adhering strictly to the Adventist University of Haiti's established admission policies and guidelines. This approach is ethically sound and professionally responsible because it prioritizes fairness, transparency, and adherence to institutional regulations. By ensuring that all applicants are assessed against the same criteria and that any discrepancies are addressed through the proper channels, the university upholds its commitment to academic excellence and equitable opportunity. This aligns with the fundamental principles of good governance and ethical conduct expected within an academic institution. An incorrect approach that involves overlooking the missing documentation due to pressure to meet enrollment targets is ethically flawed. This bypasses established procedures, creating an unfair advantage for the applicant in question and potentially disadvantaging other candidates who have diligently provided all required materials. It violates the principle of equal treatment and undermines the integrity of the admissions process. Another incorrect approach, which is to immediately reject the application without further investigation or allowing the applicant an opportunity to rectify the omission, may also be professionally unsound. While adherence to policy is crucial, a rigid application without considering potential extenuating circumstances or offering a chance for correction could be seen as lacking in due diligence and potentially unfair, depending on the specific university policies regarding incomplete applications. The university's guidelines should provide a framework for handling such situations, which might include a grace period or a request for clarification. A third incorrect approach, which is to accept the application with a note to follow up later, introduces an element of uncertainty and potential for future complications. This approach fails to ensure that all requirements are met upfront, creating a risk that the applicant may not ultimately fulfill the necessary criteria, leading to administrative issues or even the revocation of admission later. It compromises the completeness and accuracy of the admissions record from the outset. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a clear understanding of the university's admission policies and ethical guidelines. When faced with an incomplete application or a situation that deviates from the norm, a professional should first consult the relevant institutional regulations. If the regulations provide a clear procedure for handling such cases, that procedure should be followed. If the regulations are ambiguous or do not cover the specific situation, the professional should seek guidance from their supervisor or the relevant administrative department responsible for admissions. The ultimate goal is to make a decision that is both procedurally correct and ethically defensible, ensuring fairness to all applicants and upholding the integrity of the institution. Question 20. Process analysis reveals that the Adventist University of Haiti's admissions committee is facing pressure to increase enrollment numbers to meet institutional financial targets for the upcoming academic year. A proposal has been put forth to consider the potential for future philanthropic contributions from a candidate's family when evaluating their entrance examination results, particularly for candidates who narrowly miss the standard admission score but come from financially influential backgrounds, which approach best upholds the ethical and regulatory framework governing university admissions in Haiti. Option A. Strictly adhere to the established entrance examination scoring criteria for all candidates, ensuring that admission is based solely on academic merit as demonstrated by the exam, and explore alternative fundraising strategies independent of the admissions process. Option B. Implement a flexible scoring system where candidates from affluent backgrounds who demonstrate strong interest in supporting the university can have their entrance examination scores adjusted upwards to meet admission requirements. Option C. Focus primarily on the financial capacity of candidates and their families to contribute to the university's endowment, using this as a significant factor in the admission decision, even if their entrance examination scores are considerably lower than the established minimum. Option D. Prioritize candidates from families with a history of significant financial contributions to the university, offering them preferential admission even if their entrance examination scores are slightly below the standard threshold. The correct answer is A. Strictly adhere to the established entrance examination scoring criteria for all candidates, ensuring that admission is based solely on academic merit as demonstrated by the exam, and explore alternative fundraising strategies independent of the admissions process. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between the university's immediate need for funding and the ethical obligation to ensure that all admissions processes are fair, transparent, and adhere to established academic standards. The pressure to meet financial targets can create an environment where deviations from standard procedures might be considered, jeopardizing the integrity of the entrance examination and the university's reputation. Careful judgment is required to balance institutional needs with ethical responsibilities. The correct approach involves prioritizing the integrity and fairness of the entrance examination process above all else. This means ensuring that all candidates, regardless of their background or potential for future financial contribution, are evaluated solely on their academic merit as demonstrated through the standardized entrance exam. This aligns with the ethical principles of fairness and equity in education, which are fundamental to any reputable academic institution. Specifically, it upholds the principle that admission should be based on objective criteria and merit, preventing any undue influence or preferential treatment that could compromise the academic standards of Adventist University of Haiti. An incorrect approach that involves prioritizing potential donor relationships over the established entrance examination criteria would be ethically unsound and potentially violate internal university policies regarding admissions. This approach fails to uphold the principle of equal opportunity for all applicants and could lead to the admission of less qualified students, thereby lowering academic standards and damaging the university's reputation. It also creates a perception of favoritism, undermining trust in the admissions process. Another incorrect approach that suggests waiving certain examination components for candidates from affluent backgrounds, even if they meet a minimum threshold, also represents a failure of ethical conduct and adherence to fair admissions practices. While seemingly a compromise, it still introduces an element of subjectivity and preferential treatment that is not based on objective academic assessment. This undermines the validity of the entrance examination as a measure of preparedness for university-level study and violates the principle of standardized evaluation. A further incorrect approach that focuses solely on the financial implications of admitting students without a thorough review of their entrance exam performance, even if they express strong financial commitment, is a direct contravention of academic integrity. This approach prioritizes financial gain over academic suitability, which is a fundamental ethical breach for an educational institution. It risks admitting students who are not academically prepared, potentially leading to higher dropout rates and a dilution of the university's academic rigor. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a clear adherence to established university policies and ethical guidelines for admissions. Professionals should first identify any potential conflicts of interest or pressures that might compromise the integrity of the process. They should then consult relevant regulations and internal policies to ensure all actions are compliant. If a situation presents ambiguity or a conflict, seeking guidance from supervisors or an ethics committee is crucial. The ultimate decision must prioritize fairness, transparency, and the academic mission of the institution.